This is your tech news briefing for Monday, March 20th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. TikTok CEO Shou is scheduled to testify before Congress on Thursday. Lawmakers want to know about possible national security risks posed by the app's owner, Beijing-based ByteDance. It comes as the Biden administration last week threatened to ban TikTok in the U.S. if its Chinese owners don't sell their stakes in the company. And lawmakers in several Western countries and in states across the U.S. have already barred TikTok from government devices. But there's another push against TikTok. This one from Silicon Valley executives and U.S. lawmakers quietly mobilizing against Chinese involvement in the U.S. tech sector. With me to discuss this new alliance is our tech reporter, Georgia Wells. Hi, Georgia. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Zoe.
So tell me about this group that's making a push against China in the U.S. tech sector.
So I've been reporting on a group of Silicon Valley tech people who are venture capitalists, founders, executives, who are partnering with lawmakers in Washington, D.C. to mobilize on their concerns about China. And for many of them, TikTok is the top of their list of things they worry about. And they're actually meeting up next week for a secret dinner in Washington to discuss their concerns about TikTok. This dinner occurs the night before TikTok's CEO testifies on Capitol Hill. So in their view, they're priming Congress to be ready for this testimony.
Who are the big names behind this group?
So the organizer is a relative newcomer. His name is Jacob Hellberg, and he's the newest member of the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission. They're a congressional research and advisory panel. But his roots are in the tech world. He was in policy at Google for a while, and so he has partnered up with venture capitalists to make this event happen, and they have really big-name speakers, including Peter Thiel and Vinod Khosla, who are both very well-known venture capitalists in Silicon Valley.
All right, tell me a bit more about this dinner. Apart from those big-name speakers, who else do we expect to be there?
So the list includes a number of lawmakers. It reads like a who's who of the folks in Congress who have actually introduced legislation targeting TikTok or foreign adversaries. And so some of the expected attendees include Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Mark Warner, Representative Michael McCaul, Representative Mike Gallagher, Senator Cory Booker, like a really broad list of lawmakers.
Right, it sounds like both sides of the aisle there.
It's uniquely bipartisan and also uniquely bi-coastal in the groups it's bringing together. Some of the people I spoke with said that they actually believe that is the strength of this group and that it's bringing together so many people who don't have a whole lot in common, but who all have anxiety about the role of China in tech competition between the two countries.
What exactly are their concerns?
So venture capitalist Vinod Khosla, he's described a broader techno-economic war between the U.S. and China. And he really sees that in 20 years, he believes the war for economic dominance and then political power is really up in the air. The lawmakers attending, many of them have described to me two concerns about TikTok. It's user data, so the concern that the Chinese government could lean on ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company, to hand over data about American users. So that's one major concern. And the other is about the Chinese government's ability to lean on ByteDance to influence the content that American users see on TikTok. So those are the two main concerns that lawmakers have outlined.
And what's TikTok's response to that?
So TikTok has outlined this more than $1 billion the company has spent in this new structure called Project Texas, in which TikTok would house the sensitive data around American users in this cloud ecosystem controlled by Oracle. And so TikTok's response to lawmakers when they voice these concerns is that this structure should address those concerns.
What about Jacob Hellberg? Why is he involved with this?
So he described to me the evolution of his views on China, and many of them appeared to begin back in 2016 when he was working on policy at Google, where he was looking at kind of the company's ability to combat foreign interference on its platform. In 2016, if you recall, that was when pro-Russia groups use U.S. internet platforms like Google, Facebook, Twitter to sow discord ahead of the U.S. presidential election. And he said when he was at Google, he observed that Russia although it was the most prominent foreign interference effort that he observed, that China's efforts were actually not that far behind. And so, reflecting on his time at Google, in his book, The Wires of War, he wrote about his views of a coming cyber war between the US and China, is how he described it.
Georgia, these are Silicon Valley executives and investors. What have their interactions with China been like over the last few years?
So part of what's interesting here is that many tech players in Silicon Valley view China with frustration because they see the two countries as having an asymmetric relationship around tech. And so what they mean by that is that it's been very, very hard for U.S. tech companies, particularly consumer internet companies, to operate in China. So for example, like Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, those are not accessible for people in China unless they use special tools to kind of disguise their locations. Meanwhile, though, TikTok is an example of the biggest Chinese tech hit of all time to make it big in the US. And so many of the Silicon Valley tech entrepreneurs who I speak with feel frustration that Chinese tech companies can access the US when they cannot access China. So that's also a part of what's setting the stage for the kind of dynamics we're seeing at play here.
All right, that's our reporter, Georgia Wells. Thanks for joining us, Georgia.
Thank you, Zoe.
All right, that's it for Tech News Briefing today. But a quick note before we close the show, we're still taking your questions about generative AI for an upcoming episode. AI programs like ChatGPT, Microsoft's new Bing search, or Midjourney. And we're going to answer them on an upcoming episode. Do you want to know more about how these AI programs work? Or maybe how this latest wave of AI development could change how we live our lives? Leave us a voicemail with your AI question at 415-439-6482 or send us a voice recording to tnb@wsj.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.